Sindara was not a world of renown. It lay near the ragged borders of the segmentum obscurus, where the stars themselves seemed dimmer, and the void was heavy with the shadows of the Imperium. Its people tilled the gray fields, mined the veins of ash rock buried deep beneath its surface, and fed the coffers of the Imperium with obedient silence. It was a world of dust and smoke, where the skies were forever choked by the breath of its own industry. Hive spires clawed upward like broken fingers from the planet's surface, each blackened by centuries of soot. The largest of these was Hive Ash Spire, whose foundations stretched so deep into the crust that even the miners of Sindara whispered of halls where no light had touched for millennia. The administratum had long ago ceased to care for the details of Sindara. The tithes still came, though smaller with each passing century. The Astra Telepathica still received the planet's meager astropathic prayers. And so the Imperium, as it often did, forgot. But the warp does not forget. Within Hive Ash Spire, faith had begun to flicker. The once proud Basilica of St. Caldris, a cathedral said to house relics of the saint's martyrdom, had fallen silent. Its bells, once rung daily to call the faithful to prayer, had not been heard in decades. The priests mumbled their sermons to dwindling congregations, their words weary, their eyes hollow. The ecclesiarchy had sent no reinforcements, no missionaries, no crusaders to rekindle the fire. Sindara was loyal enough, silent enough, and therefore forgotten. And in that silence, whispering whispers began to grow. It began in the lower hives, where ash miners labored without end, coughing blood into rags as they clawed at the veins of blackstone. The whispers promised release. They promised strength. They promised gods who did not demand tithe or toil, but blood and devotion. No one in the spire above noticed, or perhaps they noticed, but did not care. Lord Governor Darcius Halvek sat upon the throne of Sin.
Bells would toll again. The people, he swore, would remember their loyalty to the God Emperor. On the appointed day, thousands gathered in the streets, though not with joy. They gathered as ashgulls gather at a corpse, skeptical, silent, their eyes dull. The relics, bone fragments of St. Caldris, wrapped in gold, were carried upon a litter by weary priests. Malvian himself, cloaked in crimson, raised his crozius and cried out, "Sindara is his! Sindara is loyal. Look upon the saint who gave his life for this world. Look and remember." But the people did not cheer. And from the crowd, a stone was thrown. It struck one of the priests upon the brow, splitting his skull. The relic litter lurched, gold slipping from tired hands, and the bones of the saint tumbled into the ash. The crowd surged, not in worship, but in hunger. They clawed at the relics, not as holy offerings, but as trinkets to sell for bread. High Priest Malvian screamed. His voice was drowned by the mob, and as the relics were torn apart, the bells of St. Caldris tolled of their own accord. Their sound was not holy. It was a dirge. That night, the first storm came. The skies above Hive Ash Spire turned black, darker than soot. Ash fell in torrents, choking the streets until it piled in drifts against the hive's walls. The people whispered that the saint wept, that the emperor's wrath had fallen. But those who watched the skies saw more than storm clouds. They saw shapes moving within the lightning, horned shadows, great wings, eyes that burned with colors unseen by mortal sight. And in the lower hives, those who had whispered in the dark began to speak openly. Symbols of the ruinous powers were carved upon doors. Sacrifices were made in secret, then in boldness. The warp had scented weakness. Sindara's soul was bared. 6.
The Astropath's Cry. Deep within the spire of the astropathic choir, a single voice cried out. Astropath Vela was young, scarcely more than a girl. Her eyes had been taken, her flesh scarred.
3 weeks later, a ship broke the void above Sindara. Its hull was black, its sigils unmistakable. The Imperial Aquila burned bright upon its prow, but beneath it was etched the symbol of the Inquisition. Lord Governor Halvek wept with joy when he heard. The Inquisition had come, and with them, perhaps, salvation. But the people of Sindara knew differently. They whispered in alleys and dark halls. The Inquisition had not come to save them. The Inquisition had come to judge them. And in the depths of Hive Ashspire, where the ash storms howled loudest and the symbols of chaos glowed faintly in the dark, the cults prepared. The game of salvation and damnation had begun. The void ship, Vigil Unyielding, entered low orbit above Sindara, its silhouette blotting out the stars. No merchantman bore such a profile. Armored prow, gun decks sealed, its hull blackened not by age but by design. At its heart strode Inquisitor Adrast Valerius, Ordo Hereticus. Tall, clad in storm-gray carapace embossed with the sigil of the Inquisition, he carried the authority of Terra itself. His shaven head bore the scars of decades of war against heresy, and his eyes, steel-gray, cold and unyielding, surveyed all as though already weighing their worth. When his gun cutter descended into Hive Ashspire's landing bay, the Lord Governor awaited him with full ceremony. Courtiers lined the hall, servo-skulls drifted like carrion birds, and Halvek, bloated in his robes of state, knelt upon his swollen knees. "My lord, Inquisitor," Halvek wheezed, sweat streaming from his jowls. "Sindara is yours. My faith is yours. My life is yours." Valerius did not answer at once. He let silence weigh heavy upon the hall until even the courtiers shifted uncomfortably. Then he spoke, voice like iron dragged across stone. "Your life has always belonged to the Emperor. I am here to see if you have remembered that truth, or forgotten it." Halvek swallowed hard. The Inquisitor's first act was not to the palace, but to the Basilica of St. Caldris. Valerius entered its halls with a retinue of stormtroopers from the Inquisitorial Storm Cell Gamma 9, their hellguns held in ready silence. The basilica was vast, its ceilings lost in shadow, its statues of saints cloaked in soot. The relic altar, once a centerpiece of devotion, now lay bare, its reliquary shattered, fragments missing. High Priest Malvian stood trembling as Valerius approached. He had not slept since the procession. His eyes were sunken, his voice a cracked whisper. "My lord, the relics are gone, stolen, defiled. I tried to rouse their faith, but..." Valerius fixed him with a gaze colder than a void frost, Even indoors, coating every surface in gray. The lower hives were a place of shadows. Workers hunched over meager meals, their faces gaunt. Children coughed blood into their hands. And on the walls, faint beneath the grime, symbols had been scrawled. Circles, eyes, runes in patterns no sane man would design. Valerius paused at one such wall, his stormtroopers encircling him. "The mark of the Changer," he whispered. "Zinch." A ripple of unease moved through his retinue. From the shadows, a voice hissed. "False gods, true gods, it makes no matter. The Emperor does not hear you." A woman stepped into the guttering light of a lumen. Her eyes glowed faintly, her veins pulsed with unnatural color. In her hands, she clutched a knife carved from obsidian. The stormtroopers leveled their guns. "Hold!" Valerius commanded. He studied her. She was no mere heretic. Warp energy shimmered faintly around her skin. A psyker. Untrained, unbound, and corrupted.
"Name yourself," Valerius said. The woman smiled, her teeth stained red. "We are many names. We are the Forgotten. We are the Ash Reborn. And we will not kneel to your corpse god." Before she could speak further, Valerius drew his bolt pistol and fired once. Her skull detonated, painting the wall with gore. The stormtroopers advanced instantly, searching for more, but the shadows swallowed all. Valerius knelt by the corpse, brushing aside the ash. Carved into her flesh were runes, an invocation, a summoning. "She was not alone," he said. "This hive is a nest of heresy." That night, Valerius sought the astropathic choir. The spire was a fortress of silence, guarded by grim-faced Adeptus Astra Telepathica wardens. Inside, the corridors were filled with the smell of incense and the constant low hum of psychic wards. Astropath Vela lay upon her cot, her body pale, her lips cracked. Her guardians bowed low as Valerius entered. "She cries out still," one whispered. "She is not seen."
"The basilica burns," she whispered. "The saint is unmade."
The sky is torn, and wings of fire blot the stars. They come. They come. Valerius placed one hand upon her brow, whispering a cant of warding. For a moment her body stilled. "They are already here," he murmured. The next day Valerius summoned Lord Governor Halvek to the basilica. The governor arrived sweating, trembling, flanked by gilded guards whose hands shook upon their weapons. Valerius stood upon the broken altar, stormtroopers arrayed behind him. "Governor," he said, voice like a death knell, "your hive rots with heresy. Your priests are weak. Your faith has faltered." Halvek fell to his knees. "My lord, I beg you, grant me time. I will root them out. I swear it upon the Emperor's name." Valerius drew his bolt pistol. "The Emperor does not accept promises. He accepts deeds." The shot echoed through the basilica. Halvek's headless corpse crumpled to the ash-strewn floor. The courtiers screamed. The stormtroopers raised their hellguns. "Sindara is under inquisitorial authority," Valerius declared, his voice carrying through the echoing hall. "By my word the heretic shall burn. By my word this hive will be purged until only the faithful remain. Let the people know. Judgment has come." The bells of St. Caldris tolled once more. Not for worship, for war. That night, the ash storm worsened. Above Hive Ashspire, lightning split the sky in unnatural hues, violet, crimson, colors without name. The warp pressed thin against reality, and voices whispered in the thunder. In the lower hives, the cults rose. Masked figures dragged victims into the streets, their screams drowned by chanting. Sigils burned with unnatural fire upon the walls, and in the deepest tunnels something vast stirred. Valerius stood upon the basilica's highest balcony, cloak whipping in the storm. His stormtroopers kept silent vigil around him, but even their discipline